Hello, everyone. I think we are ready to get started. My name is Jonathan Rogoff, go by he, him. I am one of the co-leads of the Indivisible Illinois Social Justice Alliance, and this is our standard weekly meeting time and place. I'm also a member of Indivisible IL9, and we are going to talk today about suppression-free democracy, and I am going to hand it off to my co-lead, Kim Garnett.
Hi, I am Kim Garnett. I am co-lead, as Jonathan said, for the Indivisible Illinois Social Justice Alliance. I'm also co-lead with Kathy Carter with NWSOFA. Welcome, everyone. We are the Illinois Indivisible Social Justice Alliance is on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. And if you're not following us, please do. I will drop the links in the chat. And we're also, you can contact us at iasja.com. I will give you that information as well in the chat. And I will turn it over to Rose at this time.
Thank you, Kim and Jonathan. Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to stop my video so we can concentrate on the slides. Thanks for being here. I'm Rose Colosino, co-lead of Indivisible Illinois and founder and advisor of this group. We will be talking about suppression-free democracy today. We know that this is the perfect forum for this discussion. The votes that are being suppressed are Black, Brown, and youth votes. This is a challenging time in our history, and it will take all of us to counter it. Against all odds, we won the White House, the Senate, and bought ourselves 2 years of oxygen. Yet our democracy hangs by a thread. History says we will lose control of Congress in the midterms. So there's only one thing to do. We're going to defy history. To do that, we need to save the Senate, save the House, and win down ballot races along the way. We'll be talking strategy and action. We'd appreciate your feedback. Please place your questions in the chat. We will take them at the end of this session. I want to give a really warm welcome to our partners speaking with us today, Matt from Swing Left, Michelle from Wisconsin Democrats, Scott from Jones Democracy Cafe. Are we qualified to do this? Well, we put together a strategy that was quite successful from 2018 to 2020, and we are ready to do it again. So let's jump in and get started. This might look a little familiar to you. This is from 2020. There were quite a few lines like this across the country. And unfortunately, this was not uncommon. This particular slide is from Dallas, and it was a 6-hour wait. Despite obstacles, people came out strongly. Many also voted by mail. Please note, in my mind, and I hope yours too, this is a sign of voter suppression. Lines are too. So, what did the GOP learn from the general election of 2020? Well, they reinforced their view that they can't win on their ideas. Their reaction is to do what you see now, to suppress the vote. There has been a proliferation of voter suppression bills across the country with 400. Last time I checked, maybe growing. 400 bills introduced. I know of at least 2, Georgia and Florida. Those bills have unfortunately become law. The GOP is no longer interested in representative democracy. They are interested in retaining power. Keep in mind that that is the motivating factor. Retaining power is their primary motivation. Lessons learned from the GOP in 2020 are depicted for you on this slide. And it's even hard for me to say. They have decided that it's too easy for people of color to vote. I find that unconscionable. They also determined that it was too hard to overturn the popular vote. So what have they been doing about it? You're probably familiar with some of their actions. There has been a propaganda campaign highlighting the big lie with talk about Antifa and socialism. Grassroots campaigns include organizing for 2022 and dark money. Gerrymandered state legislatures have been in development since 2010 through red mapping, attacking our freedom to vote. There are actions in the courts with the nail in the coffin for the Voting Rights Act because SCOTUS further gutted recently Section 2. Section 5 was gutted in 2013. In Congress, voting rights have been filibustered. So many names, one lie. The big lie efforts have taken many different forms over the years, and from slavery, the Confederates, to Jim Crow, to massive resistance to civil rights of African Americans and others, and the dog whistle of states' rights. Most recently, we're all very familiar with the Tea Party and MAGA efforts. And if you haven't recognized, and I bet you have, it's not just the Republican Party. Media, activists, organizations, and government are all involved. We are where we are due to broadcast news and radio, as well as the internet. White evangelicals and paramilitary groups are primary players. Others include the Proud Boys, Three Percenters, Oath Keepers, and they're not the right's political fringe anymore. They are the Republican base and the GOP future. We've seen the creation of our law enforcement and military. State and local governments have become more aggressive in suppressing voting, as well as social and economic rights. Judicially, we see damage from the courts. There's a lot going on, and we have to be awake to it. I'm going to concentrate a little more on gerrymandered state legislatures because it's so immensely important. The key here, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, is that elections are managed on the state level. Those gerrymandered state legislatures have resulted in not only battleground trifectas, but also battleground majorities. And Michelle is going to be talking about one of them later this afternoon. Here's more about what's happening. They attack freedom to vote by attacking vote by mail, one of my personal favorites, drop boxes and curbside voting. They're trying to take over elections by controlling certification of elections in 2022. Opposition, I know this really throws everybody, but opposition is criminalizing water distribution, ballot collection, and protest. Another area that's not getting enough attention, protest. We have to be, as Americans, allowed to protest. Election officials are being threatened and criminalized. These individuals, who are the backbone of our elections, are quitting in droves and being replaced by fringe characters. This is serious business. We see scam reviews in Arizona and elsewhere. Thank goodness for the work of folks like All on the Line and Sister District Project. I have more detail, and I want to tell you that these slides are going to be available once I'm done. I will go ahead and put a Google Slides link, so hopefully all of this information is information you can take advantage of if you are interested in more detailed information on what's going on in places like Arizona, Georgia, Michigan. You will have that at your fingertips. I want to thank our partner who is here today, Swing Left, for sharing this depiction. I think all the charts and words we can tell you say a lot, but this is so much more illuminating. So what we have here is a graphical depiction from the Brennan Center. And I want you to understand, you can see the highlighted states, and I really hope that these highlights don't grow, but they very well might. This is a planned attack. I heard a presentation by one of my heroes, Ari Berman, the other day, and he recognized straight on that Heritage Foundation and others. There's too many similarities of what's happening in the states to this be just one-off type of activity that's happening. Suffice to say, we have removed Trump, but democracy is still very fragile. I want to share this with you. I really feel that we have to do the work, but we need to follow the lead of African-American people such as the Poor People's Campaign and Reverend Barber. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take Indivisible, Swing Left, Jones Democracy Cafe, Wisconsin Democrats, all the groups our audience belong to turn this over to a win, but I'm confident we can do it. It has to be multicultural, multi-ethnic, including all races, generations, religious affiliations. It must be all sexual orientations, gender identities. It must be the disadvantaged and privileged and people from all regions. We can do so by following, again, Poor People's Campaign, Fair Fight, all the other organizations. And I do think, I haven't been on the streets for a while. I was there in 2017 in DC and maybe dozens of presentations since. I haven't been since COVID, but I do think this is going to entail us taking to the streets. Again, I poached another great slide from Swing Left, but I think that we don't celebrate our accomplishments enough. And that's why this slide is here. So despite some of our doom and gloom, I want to just dwell on this slide for a moment. We do have much to celebrate, including our big wins in 2020. We can celebrate, as you can see on this chart, President Biden, COVID relief, environmental protections, economic results, and a historically diverse cabinet. And you'll see in the lower left corner that chart where unemployment insurance claims go down, and that yellow line is when the Biden-Harris administration took over. Again, photos, images, pictures speak 1,000 words. We're going to start now getting into solutions. What do we have to do? We have to activate our base. We need to persuade those who toggle between conflicting ideas, and we need to marginalize the opposition. I don't know about you, but I sometimes spend a little too much time arguing. All right, we are getting now into the nitty gritty, and I am going to share with you solutions. Here's what we believe at Indivisible, Illinois. We believe that complicated but simple. We believe we need to do two main things: massive voter registration and massive voter engagement. And I want to tell you, when I send you this Google Slides link, all of these links will work for you. So if you want to join any of these groups, please do. And I want to say I am giving you a lot of options, but I do understand that everybody's talents are different. Everybody's time is different. I want you to do an assessment of what works for you, and we would more than welcome you in joining us with this fight. This is how we feel we win. We follow the lead, again, of great organizers, Stacey Abrams, another hero of mine. Make sure that progressive voters are registered and registered at the right address with the right name in massive numbers. And this is how you and me and everybody else can get involved. In Illinois, we should get as many voters as possible on the permanent vote by mail list. This is something that Indivisible Illinois fought very hard for, and we're thrilled to have it. The problem is probably not a lot of people know about it. So please join us in letting folks know you can get on a permanent vote by mail list. Vote by mail nationally has grown dramatically, and by 46% since 2020. And that's not according to me, that's according to MIT. Studies tell us that even as the pandemic wanes, people have become attached to vote by mail. We have seen that vote by mail, there was an article, by the way, it just came out through The Economist, but vote by mail has been shown to diminish inequalities and increase turnout. Locally, if you want to register people to vote, I encourage you to join our group. It's called IL Vote. It is a bona fide certified Illinois voter registration organization, and we are looking for volunteers. If you want to localize even more, there's an organization by one of our members called Neighbors. It's nonpartisan, Neighbors Who Vote, and Ballot Z, which is also nonpartisan. We would welcome your time with any of these. All these links, again, allow you to click and get more information. I want to throw out just a little bit more for you. Chicago Votes is a tremendous organization. They work a lot with the penal system and making sure incarcerated people have the opportunity to vote. Another big plus. I personally, if you want to know, if you don't, I'm going to tell you anyway, I have been spending my time national efforts. I have found this organization. They are not here today. We may do this again, so they might come on the next presentation, but it's Field Team 6. And I didn't include their whole link here. It's Register Democrats and Save the World is the rest of their link. And they have registered just in 2020, 3 million voters, and that's across the country. So something for every interest level. I do have to spend a little extra time on Ballot Z. I am quite proud of Ballot Z, and that's why it is run by a young woman. Her name is Gretchen Coleman. She's a college student, and I think she's just going from junior into senior year, but she has taken the voting world by storm. She's a one-woman riot, if you were paying attention to the lyrics of the music that we had playing, and she is making sure that she educates as many young voters as possible, and that she registers them too. So please do check out Ballot Z. This will be in your packet. All right. I mentioned before two things, right? I mentioned massive registration and massive voter engagement. A very wise organizer, actually from Wisconsin, told me that the GOP organizes year-round. Democrats, unfortunately, don't do that. We need to catch up and not just jump in right before the election. And once again, I want to tell you that we don't feel that we have all of the answers, but we feel that working together, we can solve some of the problems that we have right now. And I want to say self-canvassing, if anyone's safe canvassing, I should say, if anyone is interested, we're back. It has started. In fact, we are not making any endorsements today, but I have some personal recommendations for you, if I could. Rep. Marie Newman, who's been doing a great job for us. I happen to be sitting in aisle 3 right now. She is starting her canvassing campaign today. We also recommend canvassing for the great reps of Lauren Underwood and Sean Kasten. If you happen not to be from Illinois, Matt will be telling you about all the races that need your help. I also want to ask you, this is kind of rhetorical, so you don't have to answer, how many phone bankers do we have? Phone banking can be a tough sell, but my personal opinion is that canvassing and phone banking are our best tools. Scott will be talking to you from Jones Democracy Cafe. I have been making phone calls with JDC, and we have been calling Virginia, guess who, and Arizona. They also recently started calling for Georgia. Phone banks are Thursdays at 2 p.m. And there's also, by the way, there's a lot, I know, an 8-hour phone bank that Indivisible is hosting. We have that at 4 o'clock today. And Swing Left has phone banks. So if you don't feel that you know what to do, we're giving you some ideas. I want to ask you, how many text bankers do we have out there? Indivisible is running a program through Common Cause where we can text voters. We also recommend, if none of this fits the bill for you, we also recommend writing to the letter. We recommend writing letters to the editor. It is really high impact and it's not taken advantage of enough. And last but not least, I think that this is a big bang for your buck. I've done these myself, the vote forward letters, and Matt will be telling you more about that. I have for your perusal information, and this will be in your packets. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I need to get to the next speakers, but this is an event for Indivisible National right now. It's called Deadline for Democracy, and we are pushing hard, really hard. We've had events for the last couple of weeks, I think in the hundreds across the country, and we ask you to call whomever it might be, your senators, and I don't care if they're Democrats. We have been informed that it still works. We need to put the pressure on. Please call and ask our senators to pass For the People Act. Also, I know it's not in committee yet, but we are making phone calls and we are pushing for HR 4 as well. Yes, we know about the filibuster, but I have hope. Call me Pollyanna. I have hope we can get around the filibuster, and I am not going to give up until the end. And I think that somehow we are going to revise the filibuster. With that, I turn it over to Matt at Swing Left, and I ask you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Rose. Great to be with you all today. Yes, my name is Matt Caffrey. I'm our Senior Director for Grassroots Community Organizing at Swing Left. For those of you who are not aware, Swing Left started back in 2017 with a single focus to help Democrats take back the United States House. Today, we take many of the same principles that we kind of developed that year and apply them to the political challenges of the moment. So, our mission is to build a lasting culture of grassroots participation in winning elections for the left by making it as easy as possible for anyone to have maximum impact on the elections that determine the balance of power in our country. So what does that mean? In 2020, Swing Left volunteers worked to send 20 million letters to voters. We raised $25 million for Democratic candidates. We made, I think it was 15 million phone calls, and we work directly with the campaigns in the districts where, that district is most likely to decide who controls, a particular state legislature or a House of Congress, et cetera. So last year, our focus was states where redistricting was, on the ballot, basically through their legislative races, Senate races, and of course, the White House. This year, we're focusing more on the United States House and the United States Senate. Those are our two primary focuses. We'll also be working on governor's races and state legislative races, as we'll talk about in just a moment. So let's dive into it. Again, our goal in 2022 is that the House and the Senate, as I was just sharing. It starts, though, this year by protecting the Democratic trifecta in Virginia. Historically, Virginia is won by the party in opposition, the party outside of power in the White House. Democrats narrowly took back the legislature in 2019, I will say, with significant support from Swing Left volunteers across the country. We have a narrow majority in the House of Delegates. One seat was won by, I think, 31 votes in Nancy Guy's district. Democrats retaining the Democratic trifecta in Virginia would help to set the tone that we are not, we are not sitting back for the 2022 elections, that Democrats are fighting back, that we are energized, that we are supporting President Biden and Democrats, the Democratic majority in Congress. It would be a big statement that would set a political narrative that would put us on a track to overcome the historical trend of the party in power losing in the midterm elections. So it's not just important because, of course, it is very meaningful for people in Virginia. Democrats have made a ton of progress under the Trifecta, including banning the death penalty, raising the minimum wage, expanding Medicaid coverage, so much else. It is not only deeply meaningful for the people of Virginia, it will be meaningful for absolutely all of us and Democrats' prospects for winning the midterm elections for us to win Virginia. So that's where we're starting. And then we're using that momentum to go into the midterms and win. But we're also looking throughout the next decade. We know that we need to be winning back power in the states. We need to be moving the needle at the state level to beat back attacks on our democracy and to set ourselves up for the next round of redistricting in 2030. And I know it sounds crazy to talk about that, but it will take years to build capacity in some of these states to begin to start winning back power. And we have put pen to paper to sort of map out the game plan starting now for the next decade. So immediately, looking at the United States Senate, we have 5 states that we're looking most closely at. In Arizona and in Georgia, we have 2 Democratic incumbents that won narrowly in 2020 that have to run for re-election in 2022 because they were filling vacancies. So Mark Kelly and Raphael Warnock, we will be working immediately to support them. We also have open seats in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, 2 seats that were won by tiny margins in 2020 that we think will be in play in 2022. And then, of course, Wisconsin. I don't even like to use his name. The current senator in that seat, I won't even say it. But we have got to replace him. The people of Wisconsin deserve a representative that is not crazy. And I think that's enough. It's another state that Biden won, but won narrowly. It's a winnable seat, whether the current occupant of that seat decides to run for re-election or not. We know that these 5 races are going to be close and will likely determine who controls the United States Senate starting in 2023. Then in the gubernatorial races, you'll notice Wisconsin again, right in y'all's neck of the woods. Terry Evers is a great governor. He is up for re-election. Again, there's no, we cannot sort of take for granted that he will successfully win re-election without some support. And then we have 2 really terrible, gosh, there's a consistent theme here, 2 really terrible governors in the Deep South who we need to fire, Brian Kemp and Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, who bans anyone in state government from even using the word climate change while his state slowly sinks into the Atlantic Ocean. Brian Kemp, who's done everything in his power to disenfranchise the people of Georgia. We got to get rid of these 2 terrible governors as well. And this is part of that long-term 10-year vision of winning power in the states and setting up Democrats to begin to roll back the attacks on our democracy. Then there's the United States House. And I will say this one is messy and confusing because we don't have lines yet. The redistricting process is ongoing. We really don't know what's going to happen. But with a number of very educated guesses, with a lot of research, we have been able to determine sort of the likely range of how many targeted districts. We don't necessarily know where within each state these districts will be, but we have a general sense of where targeted districts are likely to be. So you'll see a big cluster, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, you'll see Texas, you'll see California, but Illinois, we're expecting, I think that is the 2 to 3 targets. Yes. So 2 to 3 targets in Illinois that we think will be competitive and will be essential for Democrats holding power in the United States House. And then you'll see we also are expecting somewhere in the range of 1 to 2 targets in Wisconsin, 1 to 2 in Iowa, 1 in Indiana, 1 in Ohio, 2 in the Midwest, or 2 or 3 in Michigan. So you'll see all your neighboring states. There's work to be done almost everywhere in the Midwest. So that is important as well. Then I was talking about our 10-year plan for the state power in the states. Well, this is some piece of the picture. We have 3 states that we think Democrats are on track if we are successful, if we are smart. We are on track to being able to win back power in 3 state legislative in 3 states in the state legislature: Arizona, Michigan, and New Hampshire. We were very close in Arizona and Michigan this last cycle. We lost a few close races and did not manage to retake the state legislatures. In New Hampshire, there was actually a fairly significant wave, but New Hampshire is just a very volatile state legislature, and it could wave back the other way, and we could regain power relatively quickly. Then in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Texas, we know we are unlikely to win back the state legislatures this cycle or next cycle, but we think over the course of the decade, we can begin to slowly make gains, build our bench, and expand our minorities, so that later this decade, we'd be able to win back those legislatures. So that's some of our vision for the next decade in terms of winning power back in the states. And you can see these are states that are critical swing states, where winning back power in these states would be so meaningful to voters' access to the ballot, to their freedom to vote in these states over the next decade, which would have meaningful consequences for Senate races and for presidential races to come. I just want to return, and Lauren, just to note, we are absolutely watching Ohio. The fact that it is not listed here does not necessarily mean we won't be working on it. We're looking at the governor's race and the Senate race this year, and we are, of course, looking at least one congressional race there. And it's kind of on our longer term horizon for winning power back. It is conceivably possible towards the end of the decade. All right, so I want to return to Virginia, though, because all of this work starts by beating expectations in Virginia, by showing the Democratic grassroots, the Democratic voters are fired up, that we are not going to sit it out like we did in 2009, the year after President Obama was elected, when a Republican governor was elected in Georgia. And that was the kind of first blood in the water, it seemed, that sort of gave folks the impression that 2010 might not go well. And I think it became somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if we can hold the line in Virginia and reelect some of these wonderful delegates and maybe win a couple, we've got 3 pickup opportunities in this mix as well, we can begin to show that history is not destiny, and that we can continue making progress in Virginia, and we can continue working toward a successful 2022. So this is actually a weekend of action for us at Swing Left. To volunteer for Virginia. We're working closely with 10 House of Delegates candidates and with Terry McAuliffe's campaign. And if you're interested, you can learn more at swingleft.org/Virginia. And yeah, let's go to that next slide. Another way to engage is through writing letters to voters. We're aiming to write 1.5 million letters this year for Virginia, half to encourage voters to request a vote by mail ballot. And Rose spoke brilliantly about how meaningful and impactful vote by mail is. Virginia, because of the Democratic trifecta, now has much better access to the ballot, including no excuse vote by mail and no excuse absentee voting. Virginia went from having some of the worst elections laws in the country to some of the best almost overnight because Democrats won power back in 2019. So again, I want to encourage you to participate. Vote Forward letter writing is great. It's very easy. It's on demand. You just go onto the website, create an account. Once your account is created, you can download and print as many letters as you'd like. You can do it in groups. It's a great activity to put on some music and pour some wine and enjoy, or you can do it on your own. So it's a great activity, and it's something we strongly recommend. Of course, we also are canvassing and phone banking in Virginia and in some of these other early states that I mentioned, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona, for example. So I believe that is it. So participate this weekend in our weekend of action. You can learn more at swingleft.org/July action. I'll put that in the chat in just a moment. And really appreciate you all having me today.
Thank you so much, Scott. And I just can't on you enough how important having a long-term strategy. We did at Indivisible, Illinois, recognize a long-term strategy from Swing Left in 2018, and I think they've outdone themselves with the 10-year strategy. We need it, and I'm so grateful to have met you, Matt. Thank you so much for presenting. And now on to another very important person and a very important state. In fact, I think it is an epicenter state, Wisconsin Democrats, and I give you Michelle. Take it over, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Michelle. I'm the Regional Organizing Director for South of Milwaukee, and I'm going to go ahead and go over A quick overview of the next 6 months, really going over the biggest event and also our plan to introducing in-person canvassing again. I'm really excited to walk you guys through this. Just a quick overview of the road ahead. Okay, so first I wanted to go through phases of the campaign so you guys had an understanding of what the Wisconsin Democratic Party is really focusing in, knowing how important it is for us to really plan ourselves out for 2022. So right now we're doing this through phases. The first phase, which we're currently in, started in May, is going to continue on until September of 2021, is really focused on relationship and infrastructure building. The purpose is to really focus on team building and volunteer leadership development, which we have evidence that has worked for us through neighborhood action teams that we were able to use throughout the 2020 election cycle. We are also doing community service events virtually and listening sessions surrounding issue advocacy and also uplifting the governor's budget, all in anticipation to our second phase, or to our third phase, really, 1 Year to Win, which is the biggest event of the year and the biggest event in Wisconsin. This is really going to be a pivotal point because all eyes in the nation are going to be in Wisconsin. They're going to see how we're going to turn out and the capacity that we are going to go into for 2022. So we know where we stand, so that we can really get a good understanding of where we are in terms of what we need to do to get Tony Evers reelected and prepare Ron Johnson for retirement. So talking a little bit about the budget, this is actually something that was recently passed. So this week, Governor Tony Evers signed into law a historic bipartisan budget bill that includes a massive tax break for working families, investments in infrastructure, broadband, and public education, and support for veterans. He also announced an additional $100 million in funding for Wisconsin's public schools in support of students across the state. Thanks to the governor's steady leadership during the pandemic, Wisconsin is also able to take bold action and continue economic recovery. The budget also includes historic surplus, beginning with the fiscal year with $2.39 billion general fund surplus, the largest in state history, along with tax relief, $2.6 billion in tax relief for Wisconsin families, one of the largest tax cuts in Wisconsin history, and also newly providing relief to 1.6 million taxpayers. Along with public school funding, we're able to restore the state's 2/3 funding commitment for the first time in over 2 decades, with $685 million in new aid to schools. And we're also working on broadband expansion with $121 million to expand broadband access to even homes and small businesses. So this is just to show you all the things that we can do as Democrats, and also how we can continue to uplift what the governor has been able to do through this budget and this plan going into 2022. So just to go over a few important dates with you guys, we are currently in the first phase. So this is through June and July. We had an event in Milwaukee during Juneteenth. We're also working in a 8037 special election right now, where we're focusing on direct voter contact and testing the Trident plan, which I will go over shortly, while organizing around uplifting the governor's budget in the virtual space. The second phase is going to be a trial for us to prepare for the 1 Year to Win. Like I mentioned, it is the biggest event of the year, and we are going to do a lot of door knocking and phone banking, so we could use all of your help. And we will do 2 trial weekend of actions in preparation for this 1 Year to Win, August 21st and 22nd, and September 25th and 26th. And then this is just going more in depth with those dates. So like I mentioned, in this first phase, we use Juneteenth to celebrate Milwaukee on Saturday, the 19th, and then we are going into a special election, a special legislative election on the 13th, which is this Tuesday, to continue our transition to more in-person work. So we do have the option right now to get involved virtually and to also go out and door knock. During the second phase, as I mentioned, we will seek feedback and adjust our approach given the lessons from the first phase, since we are introducing Michelle, yes, I can make the slides available to you, Rosie. Sorry, I got a little distracted to start the comment, but I will send that to you. But we will seek feedback based off of everything we learned from door knocking right now, which is happening as we speak, and then we will make appropriate changes. Then we will allow volunteers across the state to begin canvassing again, starting with our August weekend of action, our first trial, 21st and the 22nd. So we hope to meet you then. And then our third phase is when we're going to have this massive 1 year to win weekend of action, November 6th and 7th. We will use the trials from the first and second and third weekend of actions to once again reassess and return to in-person distributed canvas launches throughout phase 2 to make sure we continue to improve our hybrid organizing models. Since I think everybody is going back into in-person, it's going to be very interesting to see how our strategy goes. And now to talk a little bit about the Trident plan. We are going to start by testing this Trident model of organizing to help maximize efficiency and effectiveness of both virtual and in-person organizing. And we're going to do this through a few different ways. We're going to start with in-person Canvas launches, which will be hosting social distance Canvas launches. We are also planning on doing this and focus on special areas like in DeForest, Watertown, and Columbus. We are also going to use minivan, and paper packets will be available. Aside from in-person Canvas launches, we are also trying to do distributed Canvas launches. So this is where it comes into that hybrid style where we're going to start to launch distributed Canvas launches with volunteers through Zoom, and we'll also do debriefs with them through Zoom. The goal would be for these people to use Miniman as much as possible, but we can also print and drop off TERFs if we need to. That is definitely an option. And then something that we're going to continue to do, and something that we're going to continue to hone on that we know works, because we know that last year, based off of statistics from the election and the 2020 cycle, over 90% of the people that voted absentee mail-in ballot were more likely to be Democrat. And because of that high turnout, since we know as Democrats that was huge for us, I really do think that doing virtual phone banks and virtual staging locations is really going to come into play and help us use this as a tool during this hybrid style while we're also combining canvassing. So if you aren't able to join us in state, I'd love to talk to you guys about opportunities to run your own teams and run your own virtual staging locations. Essentially, you would be producing phone bankers, and the idea would be to do a lot of focus on absentee ballot programs, along with any other recruitment or text banking. So we will continue to host virtual staging locations through Zoom to launch phone bankers, text bankers, and like I mentioned, focus on absentee ballot programs. And then this is where I really ask for you guys to come out and join me. We are, in addition to hosting these trials, we are also doing recruitment Tuesdays and Thursdays starting in August. So we're going to phone bank. We will train you how to phone bank to make recruitment calls, and this will all be in our effort to recruit for our August weekend of action, the 21st and the 22nd. Like I mentioned, if you guys are able to join us in state, this is going to be super important. Not only is this really going to show the rest of the nation where Wisconsin is, we really need to do whatever we can to show that we are here for Tony Evers, and we need to get Ron Johnson out. He is just continuing to do terrible things that are affecting Wisconsinites every single day, and also people across the nation, I would argue. So I definitely encourage you guys to join us. And if you can't in person, then please talk to me about opportunities to get involved virtually, since we do have a plethora of opportunities for you guys to get involved. I'm also going to drop a few links in the chat box. One of them is a mobilized link to our Recruitment Thursday phone banks. The other is for the August WOA phone bank, or just weekend of action that we're going to have. And then I also dropped an additional link for a Google form that has the dates for the September weekend of action, the second trial, and for the 1 year to win. So if anything that you can take away from this presentation, if you can't come for the first few WOAs, please join us on the 1 year to win. Like I said, we really just want to show the rest of the nation what we're capable of. And I think Milwaukee is a huge place to show that we can come together. And I would also love to work collaboratively with all of you. So thank you so much for having me. I did just drop the links in the chat. And if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will also put in my email as well. But thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to joining you guys in these calls in the future.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Great job. And I have to say, this is a perfect example of coalition building. Back in 2018, Indivisible Illinois, Indivisible Evanston, Indivisible Chicago worked together. It's probably more than 200 canvassers. We made a lot of trips to canvass in Wisconsin for Tony Evers and others. And also we worked with their voter registration system and were able to register over 2,000 voters. So the people on this call, we can make a difference. And I'm just so grateful to have met Michelle. Michelle, we will see you again soon. Thank you so much. Now I am going to move along here swiftly. And a newer friend, but still a friend, been joining his phone banks, Jones Democracy Cafe phone banks. They phone bank with the support of Common Cause as well as the Center for Common Ground, and they are making a difference. They are making a slew of calls about, as I mentioned, S1, HR4. Scott was on a phone bank this morning. He's a busy man, and I thank you for being with us here this afternoon. Scott, over to you.
Thank you, Rose. So here's a brief description of who Jones Democracy Cafe is. We're basically a collective of people interested in improving training. We all met during the Georgia runoff. We're from all around the country. We want to work on helping save our democracy, improving fairness and equal rights. And we run fairly sophisticated trainings. We really care about high quality trainings. We train people of different levels, people with absolutely no experience, people who are uncomfortable with technology. We also go into depth because we actually help run phone banks. We help run the behind the scenes operation of running the dialers and improving the scripts. We help people who have trouble with technology. We'll train on all aspects of the technology needed, besides training on the dialers, besides teaching people how the script works, how to work with the scripts, how to make an impact on voters. So here's sort of the things that our phone banks offer. We have very experienced trainers. We're very selective about who we choose as trainers. We always have dedicated tech support, people who can solve all kinds of technical problems. We basically do customized trainings. We will often take other people's trainings and make substantial improvements to them. We run a lot of little informal focus groups after our trainings. We've identified who are the most experienced callers, who are the most efficient callers. When we have make improvements to the scripts, we'll have a little focus group to see how people like it. We'll use the focus groups to make further training to the scripts. At our phone banks, typically we will actually do trainings on multiple campaigns at the same time. So we have multiple trainers and different breakout rooms training on different dialers. We will actually introduce people at the beginning. Here's the campaigns are running. They're very different in all these ways. We'll show the differences between the campaigns, and then let people choose the trainings they want. We have a mailing list where we remind people every week about what the phone banks are going to be, which campaigns we're going to do in each phone bank. Let them sign up through Mobilize. So we do a range of different campaigns, national and state. And so at the beginning of our phone banks, we have longer phone banks that are typical. Our phone banks are typically 3 hours. And we'll start out with a half-hour political update, national and state news, somewhat oriented towards democracy rights and voter suppression, but in general, things that might not make the major media. And then we go into different trainings with people who are really struggling. We'll take them into a breakout room and do one. So here's some of the organizations we are aligned with and work with. Center for Common Ground, that has a mission engaging people of color. They focus on states where there are large numbers of people of color. We are definitely part of the leadership team with Center for Common Ground. We joined with Common Cause because we wanted to be phone banking into the two key states for getting S1 passed, which is Arizona and West Virginia. Center for Common Ground is working on S1 in Arizona because there's a lot of people of color in Arizona. There aren't so many people of color in West Virginia, so we had to partner with Common Cause to do West Virginia. We work with VOPA pros in the Georgia runoff. That's voter protection pros. We've been working with them again with Common Cause in West Virginia. We work with Swing Left Peninsula, which has a very large phone banking operation. In fact, I'm going to be doing a phone bank with them this afternoon. And then now we're working with Indivisible, Illinois. So here's some of the phone banks we've done. We've done substantial amount of fighting voter suppression in Georgia and Arizona and Texas. We routinely fill up legislators' mailboxes. They see us. So we are there. And what we actually do is our phone bank operations are focused on patch throughs, that we will ask a voter, are you aware of X? Would you be willing to call your legislator and tell them, no, don't get rid of vote by mail? And we tend to call, for example, in Georgia, we would call older people of color who have cell phones who voted by mail. And so these are people that really like voting by mail, don't want to get rid of it. So we connect them right to their legislator, right there on the spot. They can leave a message right away. We listen to them making the call. If they make any mistakes, we call them back and thank them so much for making them a call. But I'm not quite sure you used the right words. You didn't have quite the right bill number. Would you be willing to call them back to correct that so that your voice can really count? And it's powerful and it's gratifying. We've done Get Out the Vote in Texas in a nonpartisan primary, and a Virginia primary, and New York primary. We've done some energy work with We the Plug, though, where they get people engaged in, for example, their electric co-ops that are actually community run, but people don't know about it. And then we're but postcarding is a little bit on hiatus, but it's about to start up again. So we're going to have another breakout room with. Okay, so the current and upcoming campaigns, the S1 campaigns we've been doing now for over a month with Arizona, West Virginia. The phone bank I'm about to go into at 3:00 Central Time is all S1 all the time. We are again working on Texas voter suppression because the governor called it a special session primarily to pass a voter suppression law. So we're going to be patching Texas voters through to say don't do that. We hope to be working on the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, DZ statehood. Definitely, we're going to work on the Virginia elections. Long term, we hope we'll be working on police reform and social justice so we can get our democracy safe. Okay, so here's our phone banks. I'm gonna put some details in chat, and including my email address if you want to contact me. And I want to talk a little bit about phone banking, and what you have to do to convince people that they can phone bank. In particular, here's a nice thing I'm going to put in chat for people. Phone banking for introverts. Introverts can save the world. When we do phone banking with Center for Common Ground, for example, we're calling people of color. And especially in Georgia, man, the people are so nice and they're so appreciative. And they really appreciate that you care enough to give them a call. And especially with Center for Common Ground, when we're trying to engage, traditionally marginalized people, we have multiple goals. Yes, we want them to take action, and the action is very gratifying. We tell them we often fill up legislators' mailboxes, but we also teach people how to take action, how to use their voice. and we make them aware of what's going on. We make them aware of oh yeah, there's more than just voting for the president. Yeah, there's things going on in my state. I don't like what they're doing in my state. Get people to start to vote down ballot. It's sort of a form of long-term organizing. And just you as a phone banker, it's personally gratifying when you experience helping someone find their power. It's just really nice. And it's actually immediate gratification, unlike letter writing or being in a protest where you're not quite sure what your impact is going to have. You're on the phone talking to the person. People often thank you for what you're doing. They really are often appreciative. It's really nice to make a personal connection from somebody, perhaps from a community that you're not that familiar with, from a different demographic group. So it's phone banking is much easier than you expect. I mean, when you start out phone banking, when you learn an all new dialer and all new script, what I find is my brain is like a mass of confusion. I just have to jump in and start doing it. You get the hang of it after a while. You have to go back and say, okay, now they sort of have the general gist of it. Let me go back and look at the script again and get some of the details and study the coding. And you can pretty quickly get comfortable with it. And of course, one of the things we do is we offer different kinds of campaigns. And so the campaigns have different strategies. Some of them leave a voicemail, some of them don't. Some of them you end up talking to more voters, some of them you don't. Some of them are sort of unusual, things like predictive dialing. Some of them you get to control everything, is more natural. So we can sort of offer something that will be a fit for different kinds of people who have different kinds of needs and desires. So don't feel like phone banking is not for me. Give it a try. It's actually you can get used to it pretty quickly. It's actually quite gratifying. Okay, and that's my presentation.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it, and I want to just give my personal experience. They do hand-holding. They took care of me. I have had exposure to phone bank. I did it in my career for many years, and I have experienced a number of different phone banks, and honest to goodness, JDC does a great job. And I have to tell you from my assessment, the last 5 years that I've been more and more involved in politics and elections, canvassing and phone banking are the two best tools that we have in our toolkit. So I know it can be a little intimidating, but trust me, try out. If you don't believe it, check out Scott's phone bank. And I think that you'll be returning if you do go one time. So thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you on Thursday.
Yes, very good.
Another phone bank, competing phone bank at 4:00 today, but I will see you on yours Thursday. You can do 2 phone banks a week too. And I just want to share with you this. This is our photo. There's me, there's Ed, some of you might recognize from NWSOFA and others. So thank you. I am going to wrap up with some messaging information. My background is in marketing, academically and work-wise. So I am following the lead of another great group, Democracy Rising, Freedom Rising. And this, I think, key on this chart, because I'm going to go through this quickly. Surveys tell us that the fight must be connected to what is important to people. And that is these couple of words here: freedom, family, jobs, and care. And I have to tell you, those words seem very familiar to me because I did my fair share of phone banking for OSOF and Warnock, and that was similar messaging there. So look what happened. We are told from Democracy Rising that democracy as a word doesn't really encourage people to act. From their surveys, from their analyses, it's considered an abstraction, and it doesn't spur interest, as does freedom to vote, and all voting should be equal. So I wanted to point that out to you. I could not end a presentation without talking about vote by mail. It's something that Indivisible Illinois, the Vote by Mail Task Force, has been working on for a really long time. We made the decision back March of 2020. We did not feel with COVID that it was safe for people to wait in long lines, and I think we've seen our assessment justified. So we will continue to promote vote by mail. Remember, new law, Pritzker signed. We are on a permanent list for vote by mail. I'm going to get on it. I hope you get on it too. And again, more and more studies are telling us, this is the SJA group, more and more studies are telling us that vote by mail does increase turnout and it reduces inequality, which is key. So I want us to just take a breath. I know we gave you a lot. Again, we're not telling you to do all of it. We're telling you what fits, what works best for you. Do you want to work in Wisconsin? Are you more of a planner like I am for the 10-year plan with Swing Left? Maybe even if phone banking isn't your favorite thing to do you want to make an impact? Is phone banking for you? It's all here, and we hope to continue working with you. And yes, this is my last slide. So this image really spoke to me, and also I'm a good one for finding quotes from people more eloquent than I can sometimes be. And this one's short. It's from Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. I think that says it all. And I don't know if you can even see it. I just want to make sure I stress to you, it's again, last but not least, it says digital toolkit, freedom to vote. I think Jonathan has put this in the chat, or he will in a moment. This is a great toolkit. These are the folks that I just told you about, Dr. Jiggy, Anat Shenker-Osario, and Michael P. They've been doing tremendous work since 2020, and it's a all-inclusive toolkit. So with that, I thank you, and I know we are at 1 o'clock, but I am willing to stay if we have questions on for another 10 minutes or so.
Yes, I was just curious about the origins of this name, Jones Democracy Cafe. It's interesting, and I think it's, it'd be interesting to hear just a little bit about where that name comes from.
Yeah, it is sort of an interesting story. Joan went to the Georgia runoff as a volunteer, and then she started making a lot of suggestions. And then she started doing training, and she started helping people out. And she noticed the organizer of the phone bank noticed that people showed up and say, "Wait, I want to be in Joan's room. I want to be with Joan." And so she said, "Okay, well, let's call it Joan's Cafe." And so because so many people asked to be with her because she was such a good trainer, and she had this ability to sort of sort people out and like answer the quick questions quickly, get those people off calling, and then move on to the harder questions. And then so we couldn't figure out a name, so we just kept calling ourselves Joan's Cafe. And then we realized that we had to be fighting for democracy. We added democracy, and that's how it became Joan's Democracy Cafe.
Okay, Rose, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here on a Saturday. I have my blind shut. See how nice it was outside. So we're just so grateful that you spent your part of it with us. We hope that we can continue working together. You should have all of our information. I haven't been checking the chat, but please do check in with us. And we're grateful to have you here this afternoon. Thank you, thank you, thank you.